Hello, everyone. You are here one more time in Esports 101. Today I'm going to be alone. We're going to talk to Hicham. Uh, I think everyone know him because he's the founder and CEO of NIP Group. In my opinion, one of the most famous and uh, biggest company in esports, Ninja in Pyjamas. He is the founder of this organization, and he, if I'm not crazy, Ninja in Pijama, it was the first one to become successfully traded in company. I don't know if I'm correctly this pronunciation. NASDAQ is
Yeah,
like
NASDAQ.
NASDAQ. So thank you very much, Hitchan, for accepting our invitation. So my first question is the question that I do every time. Is like I did like a really poor introduction by purpose because I want to know who is Hitchan by you. Who is Hitchan? How you started? Can you tell me a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can go from it to who I am a little bit personally. Well, my name is Hicham. I'm 36 years old, 37 actually this year. I'm the father of two dogs, very cute ones. So that is me in a nutshell on a personal side. Professionally, I've been with Ninjas in Pajamas for 10 years. So when I joined Ninjas in Pajamas 10 years ago, it was a Counter-Strike team that only did Counter-Strike. Today, it is grown to be one of the largest esports organizations in the world, but also far beyond that. So opposed to everyone that knew Ninjas in Pajamas when I joined 10 years ago, we now do 16 different video games across the world, from Europe to the Americas to Asia and China, and particularly. We no longer only do esports. Esports is actually quite a small part of Ninjas in Pajamas, as Ninjas in Pajamas has become NIP Group. We are a fully fledged digital entertainment company where digital infrastructure is weaved in. So what do we do these days? Well, we own Ninjas in Pajamas, the esports brand. We own eStar, which is the equivalent for mobile video games in China. We have one of the largest digital talent management agencies in the world, which for digital creators in Asia. We own event production companies. We own our home stadiums. We also ventured into games publishing. We're opening esports hotels. Outside of gaming, we are known as the largest Bitcoin miners stemming out of the Middle East and one of the largest Bitcoin miners in the world. So we do a lot of different things. My career did not start in video games. It actually started in finance. But the reason I ended up in video games is when I was growing up, 12, 13, 14, I was an NIP fan. I was cheering for Heaton, Potty, Spawn, and the guys. And then when I was 18, I was headhunted to finance. I spent almost a decade in finance running a hedge fund. And then I decided to take a break, and it was supposed to be a 6-month sabbatical. I had bought this little bankrupt esports team, which was called Ninjas and Pajamas in 2015. And I decided to clean it up. And here we are 10 years later, and the sabbatical is still ongoing. And we've built the largest company stemming out of esports and one of the prime digital entertainment and infrastructure companies in the world.
Oh my God, it's nice because like I have the same age of you. I am 37, and I started to watch esports because of Ninja in Pyjamas with the Counter Strike team. They are like so amazing. Even though in that time MIBR made in Brazil, it was a good team too. But Ninja in Pyjamas for me it was like a dream to know people like from then. Uh, Before you worked with esports like in Ninja in Pyjamas, have you played something? How was your introduction for gaming? Do you play something as a hobby? I imagine that you don't play like as a professional, but you play as a hobby or something like that. Do you have a passion for that?
Yeah, so I actually started playing video games at a very early age. I think I got my first Nintendo when I was like 3, I think, or 4. Yeah, it was about 3. So I grew up with a lot of console games. In my house, when I grew up, first of all, I was raised in Norway and in Oslo. And similarly to Sweden, where Ninja's Pyjamas has its root, Norway had fiber at home very, very early. So I remember, even though I grew up with consoles and played a lot of Super Mario, Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, Crash Bandicoot, or whatever it was, we got computers at home very early because we had fiber connection very early. So I think at home we had computer with fiber connection as early as in like 98, 99. So my household was like computer native. So, but I was always annoyed that my parents had Macs. It took a little bit of a while before we actually got PC back then. So my first games on PC was like Prince of Persia, the Mac version, which was not the great version. Then we had a PC. Then the games were like Wolfenstein 3D and stuff. And then a couple of years later, fast forward to like 2003, 2004, I think. That's when I played CS 1.6 at home, right? And I got hooked, and I was on IRC. I had a couple of clans. I was not the best player, I'll tell you that. I thought I was much better than what I actually was. And then I was really into that for like 2-3 years. But then came high school. I got interested in other things. A couple years later, I was in finance, and sort of that video games interest where you go from like playing 8-9 hours a day for 2-3 years, that like vanished overnight. So that is a little bit of my gaming life. Today, I still play video games, but I have my Nintendo Switch, right? So it's a little bit easier. I travel a lot. So then it's like everything from Zelda to Mario Odyssey to whatever I might find in the library when I'm scrolling. So these days it's more like casual gaming on my Switch. I do watch a lot of NIP games still. I was watching the Counter-Strike games today. So yeah, I'm still very much in it, I would say. Just not trying to be a Counter-Strike pro anymore.
Oh, right. And I missed that time in 2002, 2003, because like we didn't have like internet like you have today, like a lot of platforms to play. And we usually think that you are better than you are in the game. Because today, if I'm going to play, for example, Counter-Strike, I am going to play against people who will make me feel bad in the game. In that time, it was in the LAN house for me. So if I was good for the LAN house, I pretend that I was good for everyone. It was so fun in that time. And before NIP, how was your career? And how more important, how was your career? And I'm going to say, because my experience in Brazil, it's really hard to be entrepreneurship, to do
Yeah.
entrepreneur. Have you ever think about do something like that, or it was something that just happened?
So my career started very early, right? When I was 18, I was headhunted straight out of high school to work with one of the largest investment firms in the world, and the largest in the Nordics. So I was supposed to do a 1-year traineeship there, and then I was going to university. Now, it didn't end up being 1 year, obviously. So I did the first year. Then they convinced me to stay another year. Then I was supposed to go to university in the US. And then they convinced me to stay 3 years. They would pay my education. So I worked like on equities, fixed income. I did real estate, private equity, and so on. But also on the side to working in finance, I actually started 2 companies. So I think that drive for entrepreneurship is like part of my DNA, right? I am raised in Norway, but my roots are Lebanese, and Lebanese people are known for being very entrepreneurial. So I think that's in my DNA. So I started a wallet company, which became very successful, which we sold. I started an eyewear company. I don't know, maybe you remember them. You remember those yellow computer glasses, which were called
Yeah, yeah,
Gunners?
yes.
Yeah, that was us. So we
Oh,
did that.
nice.
Right. So that is a little bit of an Easter egg. And then I was doing this. So I was studying full time. I was working full time. I was starting, like, I finished the wallet company, started the eyewear company on the side. So I was very much occupied. Then when I was done university, I moved to the US. I ran a hedge fund for 4 years. So during that time, it came up to 9 years in finance. I decided that, look, I work in a very large organization. I've only known that organization in my professional life. What about I take a break and then figure out what I really want to do? So then I had acquired NIP, and during that time, NIP had financial troubles. So I said, okay, let me just clean this up, go to a beach somewhere and hand it off to someone else and go back into finance. But I enjoyed the entrepreneurship of it so much that I just stayed and continued doing it, because esports was exciting, video games were exciting, but also in back of my mind, it was also esports and video games are great. They're fun. You can build something unique here, but it's also an opportunity to build something which is significantly larger than esports, significantly larger than video games. And that's what you're seeing us doing today.
Really nice. And I have to ask this question. You started in 2012, right?
2016 at NIP.
16. Why, like, why he started NIP? You could like try to invest in other teams or try to buy other teams. Why NIP? Well, like a giant like NIP.
Yeah, so it was actually by total coincidence, right? When I was in finance, NIP wasn't really on my radar, but the eyewear company, Gunners, we sponsored NIP. So when NIP ran into financial troubles, they came and asked me if I wanted to put some money into it for them to be able to clean it up. So originally I did that as early actually as 2014. Then I continued my life in finance. I tuned into some games once in a while. And then they did it for another year and they run into issues again. So since we sponsored them, they came back and asked me again. And then it was more like, okay, guys, the problems need a little bit more attention than what this is going to do. I am planning on leaving finance. So what about I acquired a company? So it was through that eyewear connection where we sponsored them, where they came and asked if we were willing to invest, which we were. And I thought it was super fun, right? Like a brand that I've been a fan of when I was much younger, right? So it was a lot of affinity for me behind that. Looking at it today, it wasn't like this super rational decision where I was like, okay, this is the business case behind NIP. This is what we're going to do. It was more like, okay, cool to do Ninja's Pajamas. I can do it while I take a break, and then we see what unfolds from there. But the plan for me was originally that I was going into finance again and invest into other things and not do NIP. That was like the original plan.
And I'm trying to think how can I ask that, but I imagine that you said that they asked like money for cleaning up and everything. What was your hardest challenge in the first year? It was more because of the money or because you have to start everything, make like some changes?
It was actually different things, right? For me, I came from like the big world of finance, living in the US. Uh, I had a very limited network in esports and video games to begin with, right? So imagine me at that time as a complete outsider, which knew no one in the industry, right? Tournament organizers, players, the staff that worked there, the partners that we had. So was a bit of tricky being like the new guy that came in, right? So that was a very large challenge. The other challenge, which I did not know the time I decided to leave finance and join NIP, there was no clear overview on how big the struggles of the company and the brand was financially. So it was a little bit of a gamble in the sense that you joined something, a week later there was another problem, a week later there was another problem. So the size of the issues, the size of the backlog of what they hadn't done financially was significantly larger than I expected. So it was sort of a big challenge, right? In a new space, new industry, you don't really know the extent and size of the problem. But when we arrived to sort of having full control and understanding what we had, that everything was cleaned up, getting to know a lot of wonderful people in the space, then it started becoming extremely rewarding working with. And I think one of the most rewarding thing was mostly actually the people that were in esports back then, which made it like super enjoyable to work with, encounter, and so on. So that's a little bit of the reason to why I stayed. Besides that, I saw that we could build something really, really big, taking in the esports audience, diversifying that to wider gaming audience, and then plug in things from outside of esports into it.
It's great to see, like, because uh, for people like me who was watching for a long time esports, it was so bad when we saw NIP or other Astralis companies, like big ones that we usually to watch, see that they are in a bad position, you know. Uh,
Yep.
you said that you watched Counter Strike and everything, uh, but when you start at NIP, I imagine that you have to think about. I imagine, no, you have to think about the business and everything, and because like this kind of podcast is like for people who is starting the esports. uh, Most of people who is starting, they think like having a company like you, NAP, a esports team, it's about just a winning tournament. uh, how was that when you realized that it was much more than that? Because I'm going to do two questions. The first one is that. The second one is, how much important is winning tournament for a sports company when you talk about finance, of course?
Yeah. So I'll try and answer that as good as I can. So I was lucky enough to join NIP at a time where they were very, very good, right? We were still winning events. We had back then some struggles at the majors, but the core and the ranking itself was very, very good. So we came off of the wind of the 87-0 legacy, massive brand momentum, very good following, a lot of hype and interest surrounding the brand, right? So NIP in general and the DNA of the brand is built on winning, right? It's this ridiculous name, Ninjas and Pajamas, which went on and won a lot, and people absolutely loved it and became fans of it, right? So winning is absolutely important. But when you look at esports in general as an industry is a very small industry in the grand scheme of things, right? So we took the decision quite early that it couldn't only be about Counter-Strike, because if your Counter-Strike team performs poorly over a longer period of time, you sort of lose the relevance towards your audience. So that's when you saw us starting to significantly scale games. And then the strategy was always, we are going to be in every single relevant game title in the biggest market for that game title, which enables you to win world championships. So this is, for example, why you saw us do Rainbow Six in Brazil and made back-to-back six invitational finals. We won one. That's why you see us do FIFA in Europe, as an example. That's why you see us do Rocket League in Europe, League of Legends, Honor of Kings. We do all of that in China because that is the largest, strongest competitive region. And that is to make the brand stable, right? You're not just catering to one audience, you're catering to different communities within the esports space, but also you're making sure that your brand is not dependent on one team solely winning, because winning is very important, right? At the demographics and the age of the fans which consume esports, a lot of people are prone to follow winning teams. So I would say that that is a big condition. It's also the reason why sponsors are interested, partners are interested, and so on. But at one point, we arrived to an NIP where, okay, we were at one point in every single game title that we could be in. Our partnership base was capped in terms of the amount of partners and so on. Esports was in a massive hype with a growth momentum. And we started to see and feel that, hey, maybe this has grown too fast and maybe esports will see a little bit of contraction. So that's when we said, okay, great. We have diversified as much as we can in esports. We have built successful structure to entertain the fans, support player performance, and so on. But what do we do if esports as an industry struggle? So that's when we decided to build the talent management agency, the events production company, the publishing arm, on the stadiums, the hotels, the Bitcoin mining. Because now we created a circle where it doesn't really matter for us if esports as a whole is having challenges or our teams aren't performing up to par. We have other parts of the business which makes sure that we are robust and can continue investing in the esports vertical, because our business is solely built on entertaining that audience, and then we built adjacent vertical which caters to that audience.
Nice. Andy, I got a hook because you said the whole environment of NIP Group today. To be 100% honest, before I scheduled with you, I didn't know this whole group. I know now because I had to do my homework and do some searching about NIP. But can you tell a little bit more about NIP Group? What is like the whole environment of NIP?
Yep. So Group for us it's a digital entertainment company which focuses on video games, but also it combines digital infrastructure, right? So esports and video games, we both understand. Digital infrastructure is a little bit more, okay, what is that, right? So we have talked about esports, we talked about talent management, we talked about hotels, we've talked about a lot of things which you and we encounter on a daily basis. We can understand what is. Now, what we thought on our side is, okay, where's the world headed? The world is headed towards AI, right? It's digital assets, cryptocurrencies. There's a digitalization phenomenon and trend which is going on in the world, where gaming is extremely relevant, right? Because the largest adapters of AI, digital assets, fan tokens, and so on, they are the young up and coming demographic which video games cater to. So we said, okay, we're very big in the entertainment side. We reach 700 million esports fans, 3.2 billion gamers around the world. But as the world moves to AI, digital assets, and fan tokens, how can we be part of that in a relevant way for video games? So we decided to go one step down and say, okay, what everyone sees is this facade of ninjas and pajamas. What infrastructure under powers everything? So we decided 1.5 years ago to invest extremely heavy in digital infrastructure and built one of the world's largest companies when it comes to Bitcoin mining. And the reason Bitcoin mining is that we own massive power plants, computing sites, which processes data to create Bitcoin. Now, as the world moves on, this capacity can be moved into AI compute and data centers. And that is something that we are extremely interested in, because we know the next phase of what's happening in the world is the AI wave and AI technology, where we have the compute power to build our own applications, which we use on our own compute power. Now we're also experimenting. NIP has the fan loyalty platform, the Dojo. We have our fan tokens. We mine a large amount of Bitcoin. All of this is digitally integrated. But when you look at AI compute and AI applications, that's what we believe the world is going. So we're never going to leave our esports DNA. We care too much about it. But also we are looking to build a company which is listed on the main list of NASDAQ. And to do that, you can't only do esports, unfortunately.
But like I imagine that it's even good for the esports team, because like you are not like a you don't depend, like it's not one obligation. You win a tournament, so you are going always going to have like good teams because you know the whole environment. You have like other ways to get money to pay the best ones to play. I imagine that it's something really good too. uh
Correct.
and
It
the
gives you it gives
no,
you a
go there, go there.
stability. Yes. It gives you definitely give you a stability in the business. So yes, we're by no means doing poor in esports, right? At the Esports World Cup this year, we currently have 8 teams qualified. We might have 9 teams if the Rainbow Six team qualifies now. Last year it was 3, but also give you this stability where you can think long term. You don't need to worry about that. I need to win the events. I don't need to worry about having sufficient enough of sponsors and so on, because we have a very big business, which is not esports and games, which also can do well and carry the esports side when that is not doing well.
Yeah, yeah. I want to talk about sorry. I want to talk about business, but before that, just for make clear for our public, uh, you are a founder, a co-owner of NIP Group, but you are CEO of Ninja in Pyjamas too. Can you tell me a little bit more for people who is starting? What is a daily for a CEO? What you do? How was that?
Yeah. So my role in general at NIP is it's not so much operational anymore, right? I think a little bit more about the vision, the strategy of the company, what trends are upcoming, and which direction we should take the company going forward. So I spend a lot of time thinking and positioning the company in what coming 5 years from now, right? So as you can imagine us talking about what the company does today, I spend very little time on esports and video games. I'm very involved in new expansions that we're doing in digital infrastructure, in mining, in AI compute, AI applications, because that's what's going to happen 5 years from now. So I spend a lot of time positioning the company and where the general evolution of gaming and digital entertainment is going. But I also spend a lot of time on figuring out how we connect esports, games, live experiences, digital communities, digital assets in what we are looking to connect as a full-fledged 360 ecosystem. So, and how that is essentially relevant to the audience that comes out of esports, that comes out of video games, but also audiences that are and consumer which are relevant to that. So it's very abstract. I don't do anything which has to do with teams or players or marketing. A lot of the time, it's figuring out what's next and how we can be part of what's that next is.
Oh, nice. And okay, talking about NIP and international one. To be 100% honest, when you come to Brazil, it was a surprise for me. I say like, what? Really? NIP in Brazil? Really nice. Now I saw that you were doing business in China. Why for NIP Group is so important this expansion in the international part?
So so when we built the company and started out, the vision of the company was that we were going to be the leading esports team in the world. To do that, you need to do one thing, right? You need to be in every single video game that is relevant in the largest market for that video game, right? So Counter-Strike is very self-explanatory. To win majors, you need to be in Europe. To win in Rainbow Six, you need to be in Brazil. To win in League of Legends or Honor of Kings, you need to be in China. So that leads us to, we didn't just want to build a Swedish organization or European organization. We needed to go global in order to make sure that we had performing teams which could continue the DNA of NIP winning. Now China is different, right? So when we look at that, there's like the esports world excluding China all the time. And the reason for that is China is the world's largest gaming market. It's the world's largest esports market. It sort of lives in its independent sphere, which is hard to access from the West. It's different platforms, different languages, different internet in the grand scheme of things. So for us, going into China was, you can't build the world's largest esports company if you're not in the world's largest gaming market, which is China. And 4 years after our China entry, it is great to see that we have managed to become the most prominent player in China when it comes to esports and digital entertainment.
I think I'm going to say something that it's just by my mind, okay? I don't have anything. I think they are is trying to put like China in other place. It's because I started as a I used to say pro player, but I didn't receive any money in that time. But I played like some national ones and everything. And between 2010 and 2012, China was like unbeatable. So I think they try to put like in our other place to don't make us feel bad for the games. Is especially in games like MOBA, League of Legends, Dota. It was like almost impossible to win the games against them.
It's good.
So
It's good they capped worlds at 3 Chinese teams. Like.
then if you say like, okay, uh, I'm going to say like you are in the world championship now today, the soccer one is like France. France is winning a lot of games. Then you say like, okay, France doesn't count now. Like, let's make our tournament here. I think it's because China is. I remember that in 2010 we have a national tournament here, and it was like 100 people watching. And it was like, oh my god, 100 people watching. And in China they have like 100,000 people watching. 2010. Imagine now how is that? It's unbelievable.
And
Uh,
it's very natural because China as a country is 1.4 billion people, and sort of their national sports are esports, right? They don't have a lot of success in other sport besides like summer Olympic sports. So the country is sort of rallying about what's happening digitally, and esports and gaming culture is significantly more integrated than it is and what we know it is in the West.
and I have worked at Tencent, and I know how is work a little bit with China, but how is how different is to do business in China when you compare to Europe?
I will say that doing business in China compared to Europe is like night and day, right? So um, every single country or continent or sphere is different in doing business, right? But it's easy to utilize your skills if you're going from Europe to Latin America or Latin America to Europe. It's also easy to bring those to the Middle East. But when you go to China, it is very different in terms of the barriers that you meet, right? Like language is a huge barrier. Um, Also, understanding the culture, the interests, how what they care about, how audiences and platforms exist and interact is just very different than our world, right? Because you come to a country, we are used to Instagram, X, Facebook, Twitch, Kick. They don't exist in China, right? You are entering the WeChats, the Vibos, the Bilibili, different languages. Even the aesthetics of how things look is a totally different world than what we encounter outside. So in every single dimensions, from language, from culture, from aesthetics, from platforms to tech, it is just different. Because in the West, we have our system of the world, and China has their system of the world. And those are increasingly connected to each other and talking to each other much more than they were 3 years ago, but it's two very different worlds.
It was something that when I was at Tencent, I have to be in these two words, like WeChat and everything that I had to download because it was crazy. Uh, I'm going to ask a question. I don't know if you can answer that, but if you cannot, just that's okay. Uh, how you decided which business, like a new business, fit in a NIP group? That is something that you say like, okay, it has to be, I don't know, like a startup or something that, I don't know, a trend or something like that?
Yeah. So for us to fit a business and NIP group these days, it needs to be strategic, right? So we live in the world of esports, video games, digital entertainment, live experiences, digital assets, infrastructure, and AI. So we are generally and have been very active in expanding, acquiring businesses, building our own businesses, as long as they are complementary to the existing core business that we do have, right? So a key condition for us is the businesses that we build, the businesses that we do enter to, resonates and fits very well with Gen A, Gen Z, millennial audiences, which typically were born out of our esports and gaming DNA. And if verticals are relevant to this audience, then it becomes very relevant to Ninjas and Pajamas, because we are that digital entertainment ecosystem, which does a lot of different things.
Nice. I'm going to try to say the correct word again. Is NASDAQ, correctly?
NASDAQ.
How?
NASDAQ.
NASDAQ. Uh, and how was that? Because like nowadays, I think just few people have achieved that. How was that journey? Because it was something like unbelievable, like before you did.
Yeah. Yeah, like even for us, like even if you look at me personally, it was a big moment. I actually don't remember much from the day, right? Like I watched the videos and photos after the day because it was such a hectic, large moment of like for NIP, but also for my career doing it. Like I became the youngest founder from the Middle East, the Nordics, the Arab world to ever do that. So it was like a huge personal achievement. But listing in NASDAQ is, there's not a lot of people which will be able to experience that, right? Because it meant that you built something extremely big, you had success with it, right? So our journey to list in NASDAQ, again, it started in 2015 for me. But actually, it started 25 years ago when NIP was founded, right? All those games, all those fans enabled NIP to grow into a business, right? When I joined, NIP revenued $2 million, and it was like three people. Sorry, three people
Don't worry.
working there. When we listed on NASDAQ, NIP was over 400 people, 9 offices around the world, revenue over 100 million US dollars, approaching profitability, with a plan to how do we go from $100 million in revenue to $400 million in revenue. And in esports, that is very difficult to achieve, right? So that's why you haven't seen a lot of it happen out of the esports space. And I hope that what we did sort of can be like an aspirational piece to the whole industry, where it's like, well, NIP managed to do it, everyone else can manage to do it if you're dedicated, you have the ambition, and you set large goals for yourself.
And I imagine that after you did that, uh, your decision making, it was changed, because before you were a private company, now you are a public company. How was that changing for you?
So the change was it was definitely noticeable, right? Like at NIP, and the reason we managed to do what we did is in the past we could allow ourselves to be extremely more experimental than what we can be today, right? So the threshold for starting new businesses, doing new things, with and taking a little bit more risks was easier when you're a private company. When you're a public company, when you reach a certain amount of scale, and these are things we did anyways when we were private, but compliance becomes more important, legal becomes more important, risk assessments becomes more important. We now are executing on a very set, firm strategy to what we're doing, opposed to being like, when you're private, you can run here and then you can run over there and then you can go there. Right now, there's a strategy and we're following that strategy, and we're not moving much from that strategy. And for me, like even when we're having this interview, I need to be careful with what I say, because markets open in 40 minutes from now. And everything that I do say in the public eye can move markets, and there's things you're allowed to say, things you're not allowed to say. So that's probably the thing I enjoy the least, right? So it's definitely more corporate, for lack of a better word.
Nice, nice. I don't even imagine how is that for a company. And I think it's one of the last topic that we're going to talk, but you talk about AI and digital innovation. How do you see AI in changing game business? You see like something for the future?
I don't think AI is going to revolutionize and change the world or the whole gaming ecosystem. What I do think is AI is going to make us significantly more effective. So what I mean with that is game design will get more effective. What I say with that, graphic design, videography, the ways that we solve tasks, those things are going to be more effective. Having tools where we can learn things becomes more effective. So I don't think that we will all lose our jobs and not have jobs because of AI. I think that AI will enable us and allow us to do and produce more. But there's a very interesting space which will come up in the video games, right? Like we've all been on ChatGPT, we have all been on Claude, we have all been of various language models prompting things and getting things. We're not far from where we are in a world where you soon can prompt a video game. You're already seeing X doing it. There's other companies like ourselves looking into it on how you build game engines, AI applications, which gives different experiences to video games and so on. But I think AI is here to stay, right? I don't think AI is going to make us unemployed like anyone is saying. I think AI will enable us to do greater things than we were able to do in the past.
And there is any change in NAP with AI, with anything like that, or I don't know, you invest in something?
So we are at NIP. Look, we utilize AI tools in all our work now, right? So if you look at the graphic designers, if you look at the content creation department, if you look at finance, if you look at innovation, everyone that works at NIP uses different AI tools, which makes them more effective and doing their jobs easier and producing better results. So we're already adapting and integrating AI at a big scale internally in the organization, right? Everyone from creative to legal to compliance uses AI. We've even seen our players, right? And NIP, one thing is the integration and adaptation, but yes, we are looking into building AI compute infrastructure, which can handle AI applications. We are looking at developing AI applications which are ready for the gaming audience and caters to the gaming audience as a whole. So there's a lot of exciting things that we are looking into. And I do see that NIP continues to move in the direction where maybe one day there is a fully fledged AI vertical at the company.
Really nice. And we have just two questions now. It's more about your trajectory. The first one is, there is any project that you are most proud of? Like you say that, oh my God, was my dream and it happens?
You can say the NASDAQ project was a project.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would also say, I would also say that like the whole NIP journey as a whole, right? You go from two, three people, $2 million. There's a Counter-Strike team to like achieving the dream of your little baby becoming a very grown-up adult, right? It's something about following that journey. And also when you look at like our revenues, when you look at the amount of people that we give opportunities to, those are extremely rewarding, right? To see that success and that trajectory translate into reality.
Oh, very nice. And the last question is, to be honest, I just created, not created, but they created like yesterday, and I really like it because it was something really good for me and my trajectory nowadays. Uh, I'm going trying to say that in English. I don't know if it's correct. In Portuguese, there is one syndrome, syndrome, the impostor one. When
Yeah,
you feel that you are not able to do. There is
yeah,
any time of your career that you felt that, because I'm talking to, in my opinion, okay, with the CEO and founder of one of the biggest company in the industry. So there is any time that you felt that you are not going to be able to do things.
uh, I think we all feel it, right? I think I feel it more outside of work than at work, I would say. um, it's very hard to explain, right? In finance, I spent so many years that I became a domain expert, right? I knew the ins and out. I was very knowledgeable and skilled. In esports, when esports was small, I've grown with esports. I've grown with video games. I know everything about esports and video games. So it's very hard for me to feel like an imposter when it comes to that. Um, I think now that we are moving like out of esports, doing more digital infrastructure, there is a moment where you are in different types of meetings or forums or conferences where you're just like, okay, now it's no longer esports and video games, it's cryptocurrencies, it's mining, it is digital assets. I have no idea what these people are talking about, right? But one of the things, so you do sometimes feel that you're an imposter, but for a good reason. But as one of the things that I always did, and you probably see it in the back of me, I have a lot of books, right? If I
Yes.
don't know anything, I get really annoyed. So I will go and buy a book, or I will sit there and research the topic for 3 to 4 hours until I'm fully fledged in the topic. So that's a little bit like what's shaped my career. That yes, you will always feel like an imposter. There will always be something you don't know anything about. But if you have the attitude that, okay, I did not know this, now let me go and check out what it actually was, then next time you won't be an imposter.
Oh, nice. So thank you very much, Hitchan. It was a pleasure talking to you. In the final of this conversation, you usually give you some time if you want to say where they can find you or a project that you want to introduce.
I think everyone should pay attention what NIP Group will be doing in the AI space going forward. That's what you should be paying attention to.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a pleasure in talking to you. And next few days, I'm going to post some shortcuts. And thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Ciao.